For most of its history, the Mazda BT-50 was a joint venture project with Ford, since after all, Mazda was under Ford ownership prior to its independence today. But for this new BT-50, Mazda went towards Isuzu and their truck expertise. Kaya ngayon, pwede kong tapusin agad ang review na ito by simply saying that it's just a D-Max in a more elegant suit. Pero hindi tayo ganun mag-review. And more importantly, even though the BT-50 is mostly Isuzu's work, Mazda managed to make their pickup the better one in the end, at least in Philippine spec. Here's why. Simulan muna natin with how the BT-50 drives, since after all, this is where the BT-50 and D-Max feel practically the same. All Mazda BT-50 variants come with a 3-liter diesel engine, of course made by Isuzu. This then drives the rear wheels, or all 4 wheels. But if you want a manual transmission, you can only get that in the base 4x2 variant. What we're driving today is a top trim 4x4, and I'm sure ito na agad ang inyong concern. Yes, this 4x4 Mazda BT-50 comes with a locking rear differential. Kaya hindi ko matanggap kung bakit wala nito ang D-Max LSE 4x4 and is only available in the 4x4 manual version. And right off the bat, that's already one advantage that the Mazda BT-50 has over the D-Max.
It's easy for anyone to dismiss that the BT-50 is basically just a D-Max in a more elegant suit, no? And yeah, I have to be honest, in terms of the driving experience, that's pretty much it. It's really basically a D-Max talaga, no? So it really feels like a D-Max in terms of the driving experience, the engineering, the chassis, the platform, suspension, steering, gearbox. This is really basically Isuzu's work, no? That's not to say it's a bad thing, because fundamentally, the Isuzu D-Max is a really good pickup, no? I actually like the Isuzu D-Max in terms of the driving experience. For a pickup, no, usually, ang una kong pag-uusapan is ride. Kasi syempre, with the pickup, since you have a bed that's meant to carry at least, usually, a ton of payload, metric tons at least, 1 metric ton, no? The suspension would be, syempre, matagtag, no? With the pickup, syempre, with its, requirement na dapat marami siyang nabubuhat, diba? But in the D-Max, hindi siya matagtag, no? So, that basically translates then to the BT-50, no? So ganun pa rin yung suspension niya. It's firm pero hindi matagtag. Hindi siya parang kasing talbog nung sa Toyota Hilux na talaga ang severe nung talbog niya. The classic benchmark pa rin for me in terms of ride would be the Nissan Navara, since naka-coil spring yun sa likod, imbis sa leaf spring. But yeah, as far as leaf spring pickups go nga, the BT-50 is a pretty good one. In terms of handling, we're now currently on a set of twisty roads, and I wouldn't go as far as saying that this is a sporty pickup, no. It's still not. It's still a pickup pa rin. It still feels like a truck. So, yes, this is a Mazda, but don't expect this vehicle to drive like a CX-5 or a Mazda CX-8 na parang mga sporty na SUV nila or their passenger car lineup, no. It's still not that. But, again, as far as pickups go, the Mazda BT-50 is on the sporty-ish, I guess, side of things, no. It's not sporty, but it's close. Kasi one of the reasons for that is body control, no. As we go through this set of twisty roads, I find it surprising, no, na there isn't a lot of body roll. There isn't a lot of yung mga pitching kapag naka-under heavy braking ka, or yung pagka yung nakatingala siya kapag, let's say, yun nga, or under hard acceleration. Body control is really good. That makes this pickup really confidence inspiring if you wanna bring it sa mga twisties, no. So doesn't float, the body basically feels stable. That's what I like about this pickup's handling. And then the steering is still a hydraulic steering, no. So as far as steering goes, itong hydraulic steering is on the light side of things, no. So it's not as light pa rin as the Ranger's electric power steering, no. But kaming mga car enthusiasts prefer a steering with plenty of feedback, and of course, dahil hydraulic steering pa rin to, there's plenty of feedback. You really know what's happening to the front wheels. Again, that's also confidence inspiring if you're going off-road, since you know what's happening to the front wheels, if you're losing grip or not. As far as pickups go, no, yung kanyang steering is actually on the responsive side, no. So I'm wiggling the steering wheel ngayon. There's good response while you're turning the wheel ng mabilis. So, yun nga, as you're going through corners, surprisingly, this feels really good. Which of course is the case as well with the Isuzu D-Max. Then surprisingly, for a brakes na naka-drums nga pala, it's really on rear drums. No? It's actually confidence-inspiring. Ang ganda ng pedal feel niya. It feels firm. It feels progressive. Ito, as we're going through corners here, it actually feels confidence-inspiring as you hustle this pickup sa mga corners. Then also like the car's engine and the gearbox. No? So it's a 3-liter turbo diesel. It's basically the same that you would find in the Isuzu D-Max. Then of course, it's the 4JJ3 TCX 3-liter diesel engine. And that's standard across all the lineup, no? Across the entire BT-50 lineup, no? Unlike in the D-Max na it's only in the higher variants. Now, this engine doesn't produce the class-leading figures that you would expect in something like a Ford Everest, Ranger, or the Toyota Hilux na naka 2.8-liter turbo diesel, no? But 190 horsepower and 450 Newton meters of torque. It's not class-leading nga, but ang maganda sa kanya is yung kanyang torque band. There's a wide torque band sa kanyang RPM range. So even if you're at, let's say, 3,000 RPM but you're gonna overtake other vehicles, or ito, kahit we're going up on a steep incline, hindi man matulin, but hindi siya yung hirap, no? At least ang chill lang ng makina. Hindi siya yung parang hirap na hirap umakyat or overtake. It really feels excellent. I like how this engine and transmission combo feels. The transmission is reasonably responsive. And then again, back to that engine, there's a meaty torque band nga, which again, as a result, gives you a lot of confidence in terms of overtaking, which is unlike yung sa Ford Ranger and Everest na, yes, they have class-leading horsepower din and torque, 500 Newton meters, 210 horsepower. But since that torque niya is nasa lower RPM, you would think na ang tuling niya. Pansin niyo, if you're gonna drive a Ford Everest or a Ranger, parang there's this feel na ang gaan niya ng katawan kasi nga all the torque is on the lower RPM. But once you're on the provincial roads, overtaking other slower vehicles, no, that's when you need the torque na pagdating sa mid to higher RPM range. And that's where the D-Max or the Mazda BT-50 rather excels. So now that we're out on the highway, the Mazda BT-50 again just feels like the Isuzu D-Max. So that's not, of course, a bad thing. Refinement's still good. There's not a lot of wind and road noise, so that's good. Again, it's more of the engine noise when you put your foot down kapag nag-accelerate ka. Not as quiet as the Ford Rangers, but still, it's pretty good in terms of overall refinement. It's one of the best. It's on top, basically, in terms of refinement, no? The ride, of course, as you speed up, as you go faster now, like itong nasa highway tayo ngayon, the ride becomes much more settled, mas less yung paghahap ng likod and stuff, mas stable yung ride niya, and high speed stability out on a long straight, no, is really good. Maganda yung stability niya, and the steering becomes parang slackens off kapag you're in a straight line lang. So pag mas mabilis ang takbo mo, parang there's this sense na yung on-center response niya is a bit slower, which of course is a good thing kapag nasa highway ka, kasi syempre you are less likely to do steering correction. So meaning talagang straight lang yung kamay mo, and hindi kayong pa-adjust in order to make a few steering corrections out on the highway, no? So this leads me to a good segue to talk about the Mazda BT-50's fuel economy, no? So unsurprisingly again, just like the Isuzu Mu-X or the Isuzu D-Max rather, it's kapatid na rin basically yung pickup na yun, no? So I've been doing 10.2 to 11.2 kilometers per liter, no? So that's again on one of the best in terms of fuel economy for this class of pickups, no? So that's really good, and that's despite this pickup having just 6 forward gears, no? Which is unlike yung Ford Ranger, which has 10 speeds, which is again basically proof that you don't need a lot of gears in order to have excellent fuel economy.
This is now a good time para punahin ang kanyang design. In a sea of macho and tough pickups, the Mazda BT-50 manages to look elegant, which isn't exactly a bad thing in my book. Whereas the previous BT-50 simply looked like a Ford Ranger with Mazda's pre-Kodo design face, this new model manages to carve its own distinct identity over the D-Max. The front fascia signature 5-point grille unexpectedly works well in a pickup format. And while LED headlights are standard across all variants, only this 4x4 model comes with LED daytime running lights. The 18-inch wheels also look great. Plus the rear end likewise manages to have its own identity over the D-Max. It's only at the doors where the two pickups share the same design traits. But apart from that, the BT-50 manages to have its own design identity. Oh, and baka mapansin nyo pala ang kanyang fender flares and rear tonneau cover, which is a freebie for the first batch of buyers. This may or may not anymore be in effect depending on when you're watching this video. Ngayon naman, lumipat naman tayo sa kanyang interior.
So as for the interior of the Mazda BT-50, you pretty much expect that it would be similar in terms of feel with the Isuzu D-Max, no? Well, that's mostly the case in terms of, I guess, material quality. Pero in terms of aesthetics, as typical of the Mazda brand, no, they've focused on making this interior feel, or at least aesthetically look more premium, no? So in this case, you have this silver trim piece that's connected by the doors, and then dito sa dashboard, you have this longer strip of satin silver basically, no? It's complemented by brown panels dito sa kanang dashboard, no? And then you also have soft leatherette dito sa ibabaw ng dash. Yung doors nga lang, it's still in hard plastic, hindi siya yung as plush, of course, as what you would expect in, for example, a crossover SUV, like for example, a Mazda CX-8, yung CX-5, or a Honda CR-V, mga ganong crossover SUV. So, it's pretty much on par basically with other pickups and PPVs na rin, yung mga pickup-based SUVs natin like the Isuzu MU-X or the Toyota Fortuner. Then the seats are also the same as the Isuzu D-Max, which means they're one of my favorite seats in the pickup segment, no? I like the shoulder support dito. I like basically the overall comfort of the seats. It's really as good as you would expect in this segment, no? One of the best. And then I also like the fact na yung kanyang steering has generous adjustment for reach. Usually, ang mga pickups in this segment don't have reach adjustment, but the Mazda BT-50 has, and it's actually generous in terms of yung kanyang rake adjustment. Of course, then that leads to the car's infotainment system. And in terms of the infotainment system, this is where Mazda again has done a good job compared to the Isuzu D-Max. I always say this sa mga reviews ko, I hate it when car manufacturers swap out the factory global infotainment system for something that's locally sourced. Mazda did not do that with the BT-50. So, ngayon, one of the good things with this infotainment system is that this is proof that bigger is not better. Usually, yun yung, diba, kasabihan, but bigger doesn't always mean better. This is a 9-inch touchscreen versus the MU-X's and D-Max's 10.1-inch, but because this is made by Isuzu themselves mismo, this is the global infotainment system for basically when the D-Max was being created or when the BT-50 was being created sa kanilang R&D centers in Australia or in Thailand. It's a superior infotainment system. Maybe not in terms of response, but in terms of functionality, this is a far more superior infotainment system. So, you have Apple CarPlay, of course, and Android Auto. Wireless Apple CarPlay, by the way, but yun nga lang, without a wireless charger, they're probably gonna be still using it as a wired Apple CarPlay, no? Android Auto is still wired, wala siyang wireless option. And in terms of the response ng infotainment system, it's really good. Again, maybe hindi siya lamang naman talaga compared to sa Filipino-made infotainment system, but in terms of the other functionality, the interface just looks gorgeous next to the MU-X and D-Max's aftermarket looking interface. The touch response, the icons look more elegant. More importantly, you have hard buttons sa baba niya, which is always gonna be a good thing compared to using capacitive touch buttons. Wala ka nga lang offline navigation, but seriously, who uses offline navigation nowadays? You're usually gonna use it with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, diba? So as for the rear seat space ng Mazda BT-50, surprise, it's pretty much similar to the Isuzu D-Max, no? So, itong cab naman na ito is pretty much Isuzu's engineering, no? And in terms of design, ang bago lang naman ng Mazda dito is usually the panels at the front and the rear half of the pickup. So, in terms of rear seat space, I still like pa rin yung kanyang rear seat space, no? So, legroom is pretty good for my 5'11" height. Headroom is also pretty good. You also have a hook here. Up to 4 kilos ang pwede nang ikarga. And then, you have aircon vents at the rear. You also have a rear USB port. Then you also have an armrest dito. So, again, perfect for long journeys. And One thing I like about the rear seats ng Mazda BT-50 is that, again, also just like the D-Max, maganda ang support niya sa upper body ko. So, meron ka rin nung shoulder support na parang dito sa front seats. I also like yung design ng leather. I forgot to mention that on the interior part kanina. I like the leather, the brown leather. It looks really nice and premium compared to the others, which tends to look shiny pagdating sa pickup segment, no? But yeah, that's pretty much it for the rear seats of the Mazda BT-50. Oh! Di pala. You also have storage under here sa rear seat. So, lift this up. Then you can hook it here sa likod. Ito sa mga straps dito. And you have storage here under the seats. But if you wanna carry tall items, by the way, buti na mention ko pala yun, you can, again, hook the rear seats dito sa kanang tug sa strap dito, and you can have basically a storage for your tall items. Kung let's say plantito ka and you want storage for your tall plants. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the rear seats of the Mazda BT-50. So as for yung cargo area ng Mazda BT-50, wala ka nga ng tailgate lift assist, which makes the tailgate lighter kapag let's say i-open mo siya with one hand. Pero in the case of the Mazda BT-50 and also the D-Max, wala kang ganong feature. If that matters to you, the Ford Ranger has tailgate lift assist. And the first 200 customers of the Mazda BT-50 also get this bed cover tsaka yung mga fender flares that you're able to see kanina sa design aspect. So, para mabuksan yung bed cover, just pull these two tabs, these two straps, and ikutin mo lang siya. Ikutin mo lang siyang ganon. Then, you just use one of the straps here. To secure yung bed cover in place. Not exactly the most elegant solution, but still, at least you have a bed cover for free if you're one of the first 200 buyers of the Mazda BT-50.
And that's the funny thing with the Mazda BT-50. At least here in the Philippines, the BT-50 ended up being the better pickup compared to the Isuzu D-Max on which it's based. This is due to the fact that it costs less across all variants, yet it's also the better equipped of the two pickups. Further adding insult to injury towards the Isuzu D-Max is the fact that all Mazdas come with free maintenance for 5 years, which practically makes the BT-50 a no-brainer in terms of running costs. All signs are pointing to the Mazda BT-50 being the superior pickup, and that's because it objectively is. The only reason you'll probably end up with the Isuzu D-Max is because of the brand's more diverse dealer network. But apart from that, you'd be completely bonkers to think that the Isuzu D-Max is objectively the better pickup compared to the Mazda BT-50. So yeah, basically in a nutshell, you should definitely buy the Mazda BT-50 over the Isuzu D-Max. The Mazda BT-50 starts at 1,390,000 pesos, and this gets at the base 4x2 variant. And for that price, you get stuff like 17-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights and fog lights, remote keyless entry, a smaller 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system, manual air conditioning, and fabric seats. And if you want the convenience of an automatic transmission, that's a 40,000 peso upcharge. This top trim 4x4 model that we have here retails for 1,790,000 pesos. And this now gives the benefit of LED daytime running lights, 18-inch alloy wheels, smart entry with push-button start, leather interior, power adjustable driver's seat, a larger 9-inch infotainment system, 8-speaker sound system, and a full suite of advanced driver assistance tech, which includes automatic emergency braking, full-speed adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alert, and automatic high beams.